Now, before this video starts, I know that John Kiriakou said specifically 3 years ago that he didn't trust the government, or that the government wasn't someone that he was trying to protect, right? He even said, what do I owe the government? They're the ones that ruined my life. They threw me into jail. The CIA did this to me, right? And he was on a podcast with this guy named Andrew Busman, I believe. I might be pronouncing his last name wrong, but some dude named Andrew, right? And prior to the recording of this video, I did not know that John Kiriakou said that. But I will say that at the end of this video, throughout the video, it's not me saying that I don't necessarily trust him. It's more so that I feel that there was more information that was being withheld from us, if anything, right? But, you know, unfortunately, I feel like we live in a country where there's been a lot of hidden things, and things that may be true can also come off as untrue or always as a agenda, unfortunately, because it's like, well, the government has slimed you out and done slimy things behind your back. So it's like, like, what do you trust, right? But regardless, enjoy the vid, you know what I'm saying? Enjoy my ignorance. Yo! I made a new VOD channel, bro. A lot of y'all been asking me to post my VODs, to post the long form Twitch streams. So
go subscribe, man.
And tune into the Twitch. We still ain't got going to the Twitch. What's going on, bro? You don't me, bro? Do I not make your ass laugh enough, bro? What I gotta do? Start bouncing ass, man? Whatever. I'm trolling. Appreciate y'all boys for the love and support, man. Make sure you know, tune into the VOD channel, you know what I'm saying, if you want to see the long content, because I know a lot of y'all don't be tuned into the Twitch, you know what I'm saying, but it will be on YouTube now. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. I ain't never doing that again, bro. Watch the video, nigga. Man, there's always something. This, that, some type of limitation trying to hold me back. You get tired. You gonna get tired, trust and believe. But if you quit, that's when you lose everything. And I can't quit because I was born to win. The CIA officer exposed America's torture program minutes with.
I was recruited by the CIA beginning in the late 1980s, but in a very odd way that is no longer legal. I was in graduate school at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and I was taking a class called The Psychology of Leadership that was taught by an eminent psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Gerald Post.
You know, one thing I've always been very curious on how the hell someone gets into the CIA. You know, I know people can go to school to do FBI work and all that extra lawyer work and all that, but it's like to actually get drafted into the CIA, I was very curious. So we'll see how he gets into it. Dr.
Post gave us an assignment one day where we had to shadow our bosses and write a psychological evaluation of.
Oh, okay. Maybe is this just a repeat of him telling us that the way that he got into the CIA again? Telling, aren't you already in it? You want me to be a whistleblower, bro? Is that what you want me to do? Yeah, so basically the way that they scouted, bro, was him basically showing psychopathic traits, right? And it was like, how do you get information from such and such? And he told him, you just got to force your way into it after exhausting all options.
The CIA, when it recruits spies, when it recruits operations officers, doesn't necessarily look for the big, buff guy who works out, you know, every day or 6 days a week. They look for people who have sociopathic tendencies. I'll give you an example. When I first was recruited by the CIA, I was asked in a group of new hires what we would do if we got a cable from CIA headquarters ordering us to collect information on the Indonesian economy. You recruit the Indonesian economic secretary, you make him your best friend, you spend money on him, your wives become friends, you vacation together, but you learn that he is just not recruitable. So what do? Well, one of my colleagues said, you double down, work the case another 6 months, and hope for the best. A second colleague said, maybe you work it through your wives, maybe your wife can convince his wife to give you the information. I raised my hand and I said,
you break into the Indonesian embassy and you steal it.
And the instructor said, that's exactly what you do. That's a sociopathic tendency.
And they was like, okay, you're in. I'm pretty sure that's how he got drafted into this.
Our bosses. And I was shadowing my boss. And he was a very difficult, mean, unpleasant, strong, brutish kind of person. And I went back to my apartment and I wrote my paper. And I said that he was a sociopath with psychopathic and possibly violent tendencies. I gave Dr. Post the paper, and a week later, he gives it back to me, and he gave me an A, and underneath the A, he wrote, "Please see me after class." So I went to see him, and I said, "Dr. Post, you wanted to see me?" He said, "Come to my office." So we went downstairs in the building into his little academic's office. He closed the door, and he said, "Look, I'm not really a professor here. I'm a CIA officer undercover as a professor here. And I'm looking for people who would fit into the CIA's culture."
Just out like that? Like he just told the random student? Well, I guess if he revealed his true identity, it's like there was no turning back for him. So he kind of got drafted into something that he probably didn't want to do. Is that what I'm hearing?
"I think you would fit in. Do you want to be a CIA officer?" And I said, "Yes."
Okay, what would have happened if you said no, though, right? Like, would things go back to normal? Would you still be taking the same major? You feel me? Would you
You still be alive today if you said no.
And so he made some calls. It was up to me to pass all the tests, and there were a lot of tests. But that's how I got into the CIA.
And I guess when you first joined the CIA, what was the global political landscape like, and what was the US's stance with their foreign policy?
When I joined the CIA, the Soviet Union was literally in the process of collapsing. And so all eyes were on
nigga would have got deleted? They
Eastern
probably
Europe.
blacklist you if you fell.
My expertise was in the Middle East. I had
They had to take your like entire identity and remove your face and shit, bro. There's no way, because if you, it's like end of the Cold War basically. Like there's no way in the world that it.
What the f am I talking about?
Yo! Yeah, this is nuts. I don't even know why I said this stupid shit. Holy yeah, the CIA isn't like some big secretive group, right? I mean, they hold secrets and pass secrets along. But,
I don't think they'll cut your face off.
maybe. I don't know. Let's get back to the vid, bruh.
a bachelor's degree in Middle Eastern Studies. I had studied Islamic theology with
mind
one
wipe.
of the leading Muslim scholars in the West. And my master's degree was in focused in foreign policy analysis. So I was very specific about the Middle East. And so I was assigned to Iraq, and I immediately became Saddam Hussein's classified biographer in the intelligence community. So while the Soviet Union is falling apart and those analysts are becoming big stars, I focused on Iraq, and then much to my shock and the world's shock, 9 months later, Iraq invaded Kuwait and overthrew the Kuwaiti royal family and seized.
Kuwait's oil fields.
This was a naked act of aggression and war. And so I walked in that morning. I got up early because
We knew that the invasion was coming. What? We predicted 30 days before.
Kuwait's
Oil fields.
we knew that the invasion was coming.
We predicted 30 days before.
Saddam would invade Kuwait. But I got into the office early, and my boss sort of intercepted me and said, "Don't take your jacket off, we're going to the White House." And I had never been to the White House before. So we got in a car, we drove to the White House, and we were escorted into the Oval Office. And keep in mind, I was 25 years old at the time. And you walk into the Oval Office, and
that TikTok brand rock before this just
Made mine like attention span just terrible.
I can't lie to you. Yeah, we 4 minutes in, and I already don't give a what this talking about. Shit's so crazy, man. Oh my god, I just looking at this, and I just see like a human just talking. Like I'm not even like really comprehending what this talking about. Okay, hold on, we gotta play that back because now I just legit miss whatever the he just said, man.
Like I legit stopped listening to this.
Right.
my expertise was in the Middle East. I had
And I know he said Saddam Hussein, right, was the person he was supposed to investigate, right?
a bachelor's degree in Middle Eastern studies. I had studied.
Oh man, I said that wrong.
This was a naked act of aggression and war. And so I walked in that morning.
What if, right? What if we actually told the Iraqis to invade Kuwait so we can set this entire shit up just for oil? Y'all niggas ever thought about that? Y'all ever thought about that, right? What if we set all this shit up? Because a lot of them have military grade weapons from us that we left over there in previous wars.
I got up early because we knew that the invasion was coming.
You knew the invasion was coming. That sounds very convenient, right? Very, very convenient. You knew the invasion was coming, but didn't do shit about it because of the oil.
We predicted 30 days before that Saddam would invade Kuwait. But
30 days before, so you had 30 days to stop this invasion. And what did we do? We allowed it to happen, allowed them to throw over the government, and didn't do shit about it. We allowed it so we could actually step in, stop them, look like the heroes, and put sanctions on the oil, or put, you know, what's the word, man? We give them rules and regulations to live by because we saved them.
I got into the office early, and my boss sort of intercepted me and said, "Don't take your jacket off. We're going to the White House." And I had never been to the White House before.
Wow.
So we got in a car, we drove to the White House, and we were escorted into the Oval Office. And keep in mind, I was 25 years old at the time.
That's young as hell. Already doing boss level.
Here I am screaming for the camera, dude.
God, I gotta get my life priorities correct.
And you walk into the Oval Office, and here's the president, the vice president, the national security advisor, the CIA director, my boss, and me. And the mood is very heavy.
Right.
So everybody sits down, and the president says, "Well, now what do we do?" And then everybody turns and looks at me. And it took me a second to get my bearings. And I said, "Well, the Kuwaiti government's been overthrown. The Iraqi government announced this morning that they had installed Ahmed al-Khatib."
So you had, but the thing is, you knew 30 days prior. Why didn't you let the president know about this 30 day prior? You feel me?
That's not ridiculous.
What did you gain from withholding this information? That's a loophole, right, that we're missing. You feel me? Like, why?
As the occupation governor of Kuwait, I said, "Unfortunately, we happen to know a lot about Ahmed Khatib. He got a medical degree at the American University of Beirut, and his college roommate was George Habash, and together they created the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine."
Okay.
And the vice president says,
Jesus Christ.
and I thought, wow, this is bad. We finished the briefing, got up and walked out, and two things happened. My boss said to me, "There's something you need to understand." He said, "I'm not sure that you're appreciating the importance of what's happening. It's not unusual for a country that we cover to go to war. It's highly unusual for a country that we cover to go to war with us." And then later that afternoon, Margaret Thatcher, who at the time was the British Prime Minister, called the president. It was George H.W. Bush, and famously told him, these were her words, "Now's not the time to go wobbly, George." And that call was like a wake-up call for George H.W. Bush.
May end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
And so we sent the largest army deployed since the end of the Vietnam War. We invaded Kuwait. We liberated it.
30 days before, so you had 30 days to stop this invasion. And what did we do? We allowed it to happen, allowed them to throw over the government, and didn't do shit about it. We allowed it so we could actually step in, stop them,
Look like the heroes.
We liberated it.
and put sanctions on the oil, or put, rules and regulations to live by because we saved them.
And then the rest is history.
I don't know. That sounds like a good boy hero story, bro. You feel me? I don't know how. I mean, it's like, am I going to turn this to a conspiracy theory? I probably shouldn't. I'm going to just take the word. Well, I don't know about that. Now, just to explain my logic here, basically what I'm saying is that it seemed very convenient that the CIA knew 30 days prior that Iraq was eventually going to invade Kuwait. And even the CIA on their actual website says, hey, our job is to stop from happening. That's why we collect all this secretive information. So we collected the data, yet we let this happen 30 days. Or let time pass, right? Don't do anything about it. Let them invade. And it's like, now we come over, liberate Kuwait. We get access to the oil. We can put sanctions on the oil, rules and regulations and control, because now Kuwait is in debt to us. Why? Because we had to save them from Iraq. Is that not convenient? How the does the CIA not do their job? He just told us, yeah, we knew 30 days prior that they were going to invade. We didn't do anything about it. And when he brought the information to the president didn't seem to know what the to do. Or George W. Bush didn't know what the hell to do. Which means that 9 times out of 10, they probably didn't let him know anything. And the vice president, his reaction, holy Jesus Christ, right? Let me know that, CIA wasn't technically doing their job. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong.
Or this was just a psyop story to make us feel the emotion and intensity that President George W. Bush was under, trying to decide if he was going to destroy the Iraq military, right? And I know a lot of people, well, it was a difficult decision because we had helped them in the Iran war, but in reality, our relationship with Iraq was never one that was friendly as it was with Kuwait, right? And then two, if we have friendly relations with Kuwait, we can't technically go over there and just strong arm them for their oil. But what's another way? We get Iraq to do it. Holy shit. Now we can take control of their oil and create the strategic relationship to where we're being supplied oil, and we get a little bit more control. We get to expand our military. But I don't know. I might be trolling. That's just my analysis, you feel me? And that's just my logic of thinking here, you feel me? Don't pay attention to me, though. And I'm not saying it because I'm saying something woke. I'm just, I like to think outside the box every now and then. Or question things. I like to question things, that's it.
Stationed in the Middle East, what was your role out there?
I served first in Saudi Arabia, then in Kuwait, and then I went back to headquarters for a while and decided that I so loved serving overseas that I wanted to do it on a longer term basis. So I applied for what's called a rotation at the State Department. And
okay,
I mean, this was an honest to God State Department job where I left the CIA and I went to the State Department. I was sworn in as a Foreign Service officer, and I became the economic officer at the American Embassy in Bahrain for 2 years. And then back.
What's crazy is that I'm finally understanding that we actually have our hands in a lot of countries. Like, I'm just now really grasping that right now. He's naming all these places, and it's like, what the fuck? I didn't even know we had folks over there. And it's like, yeah, we do have our hands in a lot of pots. So then it like I said, it brings up the conversation or the question of whether or not some of the stuff that he's saying is necessarily true, right? Is he really a true whistleblower? If y'all is able to predict someone taking over a government 30 days before, couldn't you have predicted him coming out telling everybody or telling the world about, torturing and all that? Yeah, it's like, why so many foreign people come to America? America has a lot of opportunity that a lot of other countries just do not have. You feel me? It's a lot of ways to make money. We're very capitalist, if that makes sense. We're a capitalistic society, right? And I believe we're the biggest in capitalism. I don't know about Dubai. You can have the American dream of a white picket fence and the fucking house and all that extra shit over here more than in you can have that type of life here other than other countries and shit.
Back to headquarters to work on Iraq again. But I did get bored. After 7.5 years of Iraq, every single day Iraq. And so I made a very unusual transition from intelligence to operations, and specifically to counter-terrorist operations.
And what does that mean?
So as an analyst, your job is to sit in a cubicle, read all source intelligence that's coming in from all over the world, think the big thoughts, write papers that probably nobody will ever read. Once or twice a week, you write something for the president, if it's important enough to merit his attention. And then you go home at the end of the day.
So you're just collecting data. That's all you do, just collect data from the world, and then the president would decide whether or not he wants to read it. You're basically a data minefield, and if you f up, it is on all you. So that is a huge responsibility. Never mind.
Counterterrorism operations was what you see in the movies. I went straight into weapons. And then after weapons, I went into
You went to hella fields.
explosives.
What
After
the fuck?
explosives, I went into counter-terrorist driving. And then
Counter-terrorist driving. What does that even mean, bro?
advanced counter-terrorist driving, which was out in the desert out west. And then you learn how to spot, assess, develop, and recruit spies to steal secrets.
What was this?
That was 1997.
Wow.
And was there any other time in these years that you were questioning the ethics of the agency and the work you were doing?
No, I didn't question the ethics of the agency at the time for a very specific reason. When Bill Clinton was elected president, he issued an order that the CIA had to, what they called, cull their recruited assets. Anybody who had what the White House described as a
Human rights problem.
was to be fired, right?
Okay.
So we didn't want to do business anymore in the 1990s with
Death squad leaders. Or assassins.
and Clinton.
Wait. So you're telling me the president himself said, hey, we're going to get rid of assassins, death squad leaders? Really?
Was serious about that. And I remember saying to a colleague at the time, I can't believe they're actually serious about human rights. This is really a very pleasant surprise for me.
Threatening.
But Bill Clinton wasn't president forever.
Okay.
He was only president for 8 years.
Right.
And then 9/11 happened, and
Everything shifted.
literally everything changed in the blink of an eye.
Okay.
So in 2001, where were you working? What was your role at that time?
In 2001, I had just returned from my first overseas operational tour in Athens. And I was working in headquarters, and my job was to train Middle Eastern intelligence services in how to carry out counterterrorism operations. And so
I think I saw an interview of him talking about how they had, I forgot what's the word they used, bro. Were basically sleeper agents, right? I wonder if this is the same thing as them having sleeper agents for the counter-terrorism.
I had to go to the White House on the morning of September 11th, 2001, with the director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, Ambassador Kofor Black. And I walked over to his office to tell him that our car was ready to take us to the White House. And when I got there, his secretary had a small TV on her desk because you couldn't watch TV on your computers back then. And the news was on, and one of the towers of the World Trade Center was burning. And I said,
What happened to the World Trade Center?
She said, a plane had flown into it. And I said, well, you know, that happened once before. In 1932, a plane flew into the Empire State Building, but it was really raining and very foggy that day.
You telling me you didn't know anything about this situation, gang?
You ain't a true whistleblower, bro. You a plant.
You threw us off. There's no way you didn't know anything about 9/11, gang.
It's so clear today. How can you not see that you're flying into the World Trade Center? And as soon as I said it,
The second plane hit.
Plane hit. And she
Nah, man. Nah, bro.
turned to me and she said, "Did you see that? Or did I imagine it?"
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
And I ran back to my office and I said, "Guys, 2 planes just hit both towers of the World Trade Center. I think we're under attack."
I refuse to believe America does not know anything about these attacks, man. Osama bin Laden could not have been that compy. You want me to believe this was operating all the way in the mountains to here? Nah, man. I will refuse to believe that shit. I would not believe that, bro. This
was legit in a cave.
in a cave. We have footage of his ass in a cave. You really want me to believe this shit? Bro, you know something. You just not talking right now, man. You supposed to be a genuine whistleblower, bro, and you came out about torturing. Granted, that's fucked up. But, bro, we need them 9/11 files right the now, man. All right? There's no way that 4 planes got taken over. 4 of them.
And then everybody ran up to the director's office. TVs all over the place. And we're all just standing there. And then the 3rd plane hits the Pentagon. There was an officer from the CIA police force. We have our own internal police force. And he came in and he said, "Everybody evacuate right now, everybody evacuate." Nobody budged. We just stood there. And then finally somebody shouted, behind me, somebody shouted, "Will someone please lead?" And Kofor said, "Yeah, you go to the director's office and tell him this. You go to security and tell him that. You go up to operations." And so everybody started to scramble. The rest of us are just standing there. And then finally, a guy said to me, a guy I was standing next to, he said, "There's still a plane in the air.
Really, nigga?
And I think we should probably assume that it's coming here." So my girlfriend, who later became my wife, she was also a senior CIA officer. She met me at my apartment and we went to the roof.
And we watched the Pentagon burn for an hour.
That's like some weird shit to do. Like, what? I mean, I guess so. I mean, what a first date, right?
And then she said, "We should try to donate blood." So we went. There were blood mobiles all over the place, but the lines were so long, they told us it'll be 24 hours before they could clear the line. And I said to her, "This is ridiculous. We have to go back to work." So I walked back to my car.
No, the 3rd one went into the Pentagon. The 4th one, the people on the plane stopped them. And that's the thing, right? Out of all the planes, like, only 1 plane got stopped. I don't even think, did these niggas have guns? Did they have guns?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought they had knives. Telling y'all black looks good on you, gangy. Also, do you trust this? I appreciate that, but I don't know. I don't really know if I do trust this individual, man. Box cutters. They had box cutters. Are you kidding me? You know how many people are on a goddamn airplane and you telling me y'all got threatened by with a box cutter? I just seen a video of some like 420 guy fighting people on the airplane and multiple people getting up to fight him. And you're telling me, I think on a couple of the planes had guns for real?
No.
No mention of guns at all. Box cutters, small knives, and in some cases pepper spray or mace. Wait, why the f did I even listen to your stupid ass comment? On a couple of the planes had guns for real? This just said guns. Like we didn't have TSA back then. Yo, what? Hey, you a troll, bro. Hold on, bro. Hey, bro. Why did I even look this up? I should have just known from common sense. Like, I guess because it's so unbelievable that got held hostage by a box cutter, bro. A box cutter? Nobody. How many people were on these planes, man? It should be at least 50 people, and y'all telling me y'all was scared of a box cutter. A box cutter doesn't even fully extend. You don't really get a true blade. 19 hijackers So if we divide that by 4 people, right? By 4 people, we have 4 or 5 people on the plane holding everybody hostage. Are you serious? With box cutters. Every plane had 90% women. Okay. There were 81 women on board, including passengers and crew as well. Several female victims in the Pentagon. Took me a minute to realize that bro was being misogynistic with this comment, right? I'm a little bit slow like that. But that's never here or there. I'm realizing that my statements can come off as if I'm blaming the victims for not stopping a terrorist attack, right? Citizens or people on the plane should never have to be put in position to stop a terrorist attack in the first place. So that's not my angle here, right? So I'm going to retract my statements that they should have bum rushed the 5 hijackers, right? And more so give credit to or praise to the 4th plane that actually stopped the attacks, right? Or stopped one of the attacks or planes from crashing. Because when you realize that, you know, the hijackers had killed the pilots, they were stabbing people, you know, it's like, okay, you know, what the hell am I going to do? They're aggressive here. We don't have weapons. And we're fearful right now. If we make any sudden movement, I could be next. So what do? You comply. So I don't expect anyone to be brave in a moment like that. You know what I mean? So like I said, I don't want it to come off as if I'm blaming the victims for not doing anything. Like I said, they shouldn't even been put in that position in the first place. Do I believe that the government has something to do with this? To be honest with you, I feel like I'm too ignorant to give real insight about that. The only thing that I do know is what John Kiriakou said himself is that CIA, we collect data, and the CIA, even on their own website, said we're supposed to collect data to stop things from happening. Given that they've been in cahoots with Osama bin Laden and also learning that Osama bin Laden is actually, our family resided in America and all this extra stuff, like they were billionaires. We knew plethora of information about this guy, right? That was the interesting thing, you know? And we knew that this guy was going rogue. And we knew before these attacks even happened that he was going to do something. We even were able to get American journalists his way to tell him that he's going to bring doom and despair to the American citizens. And the main thing I want to point out here is that John Kiriakou stated that they were able to forecast that Iran was going to invade Kuwait 30 days prior. And like I said, Osama bin Laden in his cave told, hey, I'm about to bring be ready, my nigga.
And prior to the 9/11 hijackings, we had over 150 plus hijackings, including U.S. airspace and U.S. airlines. Yo! And it's like, okay, hijacking ain't new, right? You know what I mean? So as the CIA, I mean, we can look at all the different terrorist attacks that we've had as American citizens or as an American nation, and we can possibly, you know, rule hijacking as probably being something to consider, right? I don't know. It's just it's like a very gray area there, right? It's like, what the you know what I'm saying? Like I said, we was able to get American journalists over there, or the American journalists got over there themselves. You know, we got access to probably one of the most dangerous terrorists that we've ever known. And then, we don't consider the fact that hijacking could have been part of that, right? I mean, too, they were able to get on planes with sharp objects, box cutters, mace. Like, how does that happen? You know what I mean? Like, these are legit weapons that aren't supposed to be on the plane. You know, I don't know. I don't know what the early 2000s looked like. You know, I was born in 2001, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm ignorant, right? If I was taking flights back then, I could probably say, okay, hold on, that doesn't make sense, right? We got box cutters, small knives, and paper spray and mace. Like, we allow that to be items to travel, you know? But I don't know. I don't know what it was like back then. You feel me? Maybe it was a little bit loose. But it's like you would think with all the different hijackings leading up to that we would have been a little bit more strict about what is allowed on the plane and what isn't, you know? But I'm not blaming the citizens here at all. If anything, I'm more curious about why we didn't know that this could have been possible. Why the CIA or government didn't know. You know, but I can't sit here and say, oh, they're supposed to know everything, right? You know You know what I mean? So that's another reason. So that's just my thought process here. Yeah, that's it.
I remember saying to a colleague, do they realize what they've done? I mean, I get that this group wants to strike a blow to US hegemony and the empire. I get it. But do they know nothing from history? Do they not know that our response is going to be 1,000 times?
Them must have not remembered that we nuked. We sent nukes too. We nuked Japan twice. Do you know how crazy that is? We legit said, man, all right, yeah, you want to bomb Pearl Harbor? Let's go ahead and fry your molecular makeup. Fry that you. This don't even make sense, man. I don't think Osama bin Laden. And then it's like you attacked 2 towers, nigga, in New York. I mean, you did attack the Pentagon, and you're supposed to get the White House. You feel me? But of course, they wasn't going to let the White House get hit. You know why? Come on now. That's too expensive, bro. You feel me? The White House already burned down once. We not finna have that bitch burned down again. We can rebuild the Pentagon. The statue. That's cool. We can rebuild that bitch.
What they did to us. And certainly, we spent all together in the so-called war on terror.
We spent $23 trillion.
And we killed as many as 2 million people.
Just said we spent $26 trillion. We are in serious debt. Why does this feel like a scheme just for us to make or spend more money on defenses and raise taxes, my nigga?
Did they not see that coming? Osama bin Laden said later that he wanted to damage the U.S. economy. He failed.
He failed? I think he did exactly what the fuck he planned.
Look at the economy today, man. This shit's f***ed up.
All right. If you my age, it's so difficult to even get a crib now. My shit toxic, bro. He definitely did his job, man. Cause now we just spent all I got money on weapons and shit. So these can play 4-3 in the Middle East and all that shit. Blow up while we gotta pay a ton of money on taxes.
You know this is self-employment tax.
What the does that even mean? Why am I getting taxed for being self-employed? What? Soon as you start making your own money, taxes just become this. I ain't gonna lie, up, man.
And he was.
Oh yeah, and in 2008, bro, we legit went into another recession. You feel me? 7 years later.
Responsible then for, the deaths of an untold number of people. What did he think he was really going to accomplish?
He accomplished a lot, man. Okay. In fact, he didn't accomplish a lot. America, the government, accomplished a lot. I feel like there's another group other than the CIA that we don't know about, bro. You feel me? If y'all was recruiting from college courses, you feel me, and needed them to write papers and all that, and pull them into secret layers and say, hey, you want to join the CIA? I promise you, there's another entity that we don't know about. There has to be, bro.
So it was a failure all around and changed the world permanently.
And who was Osama bin Laden and what was his intention?
The bin Laden family is a very honorable, very highly respected family. Dozens of them.
Live permanently in the United States.
Since when, bro? When did this happen? And did you just say these niggas live in the United States? Bro, you just outed yourself again, you whistleblower. Maybe he giving us information in bits and parts so we can decipher what the really happened.
Dozens of them live.
Dozens of them live permanently in the United States, and they have over $1 billion. Bro, come on, bro. Despite Osama bin Laden's extremist actions, many of his relatives were Western educated, involved in U.S. investments. No, man. No, bro. I refuse to believe that 9/11 was just an act of terrorism. Okay? All right. We just want an excuse to go get more oil. Let's just be real, right? Some of our members lived or studied in America, and some were evacuated immediately following the September 11th attacks. Business ties. So, wait a minute. They were, hold on. Look at this. It says, post 9/11, following the 9/11 attacks, roughly 13 members of the family were evacuated from the United States with FBI assistance. 8 days later, my nigga. And you think the government don't have tabs on our billionaires? I watched the Netflix documentary about Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 attacks, and the way they explained was that because the way that the World Trade Center and its towers were built, it wasn't built like any other building. You feel me? And because of that, when the jet fuel exploded and it got hot as hell, it melted the support system, the beam system. It wasn't a normal support system. You feel me? I forgot how it was built. Like, I think it was built in the middle, right? It was beams in the middle of the building. It wasn't like how it is on the outside of, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't supported from the exterior. It was support beams in the interior of the actual shape of the building. So when those melted, that led to the buildings collapsing. That's what supposedly happened, right? But even then, it don't make sense for this just to go. You feel me? Those are like time explosions.
So Osama bin Laden, who had vacationed as a teenager in the United States and all over Western Europe and was very Americanized, self-radicalized.
Very Americanized. You telling me this dude was very Americanized?
This was a sleeper agent, bro. Come on, bro.
After the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979. He went to Afghanistan in the late 1980s to fight the Soviets. He was the...
Right. So where does he decide to turn his hate towards Americans? You know what I'm saying?
Only member of his family that self-radicalized. Everybody else, you know...
The only out of his entire billion-dollar company family.
Lived the good life in France, in the UK, and in the United States. And so he came up on our radar as somebody who was potentially dangerous.
But you knew that Iraq was about to invade an entire government 30 days prior. But you ain't stop this. You ain't get in contact with this family or anything. You knew that he was living in this. I didn't even know Osama bin Laden had connections to America, my nigga. I'm just finding this out. The you mean he was vacationing in this? He was going to Miami, my nigga? What? No. To find out that Osama bin Laden was actually chilling in America in Western Europe is nuts, my nigga. And then out of the blue, he goes to Afghanistan and says, yeah, man, I'm finna just self-radicalize. Why?
I sat next to a guy when I first got hired. And in the summer of 1990, he wrote a paper saying that he believed Osama bin Laden.
So, 1990, right? You knew about this 11 years prior, and we didn't do to stop his ass.
Was the most dangerous man in the world.
What?
And I remember saying...
And then not to mention, he just mentioned that they knew about Osama bin Laden the entire time. 11 years prior. 11 years prior. And did nothing.
Who? I never heard of this guy. And he said, buddy.
Okay, hold on. They knew about him before 1990, actually.
This is one bad guy. Watch and see. Watch and see. Well.
Okay, why did he say that, though? Why did he say that Osama bin Laden was bad in 1990? Why did he say that? What made him what prompted him to say that?
5 years later, I'm living in Bahrain. I'm at lunch in the embassy cafeteria, and the TV is on. And here there's a terrorist attack in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, at a facility called OPM Sang. This was a joint facility of the U.S. military and the Saudi Arabian National Guard. And terrorists had gotten onto the base and had killed something like 5 people. And I think they were all third country nationals. I think they were Indians. So this group called al-Qaeda took responsibility for this attack. Nobody had ever heard of al-Qaeda. So.
But you knew that Osama bin Laden was going to be the most dangerous ever and didn't stop his ass.
The Saudis did what the Saudis do, and they rounded up 12.5 people. They all confessed using the identical language on national TV, and they were all immediately beheaded. Some of them may have had something to do with the attack. Some of them probably didn't have anything to do with the attack, but certainly the masterminds of this attack got away, bin Laden being the one, and he went to Afghanistan. Well, in Afghanistan, with the fall of the pro-Soviet communist government and the advent of a Taliban government, he was free to do anything he wanted. And so he ordered that his underlings create 2 training camps in southern Afghanistan, one in Kandahar province and one in Helmand province. By 2001, al-Qaeda had carried out several large-scale attacks.
Right. So here's the thing. Why aren't we stopping these? Right. What's up with the U.S. not intervening when they need to before things happen? Right. We're watching them, and we're just letting play out. Now, granted, I understand that we just can't go over to different countries and provinces like that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like we have our hand in everything.
And we said, well, we've got to get on the stick, and we have to find this guy, and we have to stop him. So the FBI began.
We have to find this guy, and we have to stop him. We legit sent one of our reporters over to interview his ass. Y'all found that nigga. That's the crazy part. This Osama bin Laden legit got a interview, nigga. What the How did that even happen, man? Isn't that crazy? Like, it's like Tommy G. Like, I refuse to believe news reporters are able to get in, or journalists are able to get in contact with a terrorist before the CIA. You legit said your job, bro, is to sit and collect secrets from all over across the world and give secrets and write papers for the president to read, and he'll choose to read them or not. And you don't know.
Investigating so that he could be charged with a crime. The CIA began looking for him. We knew that he was somewhere in Afghanistan, probably in Kandahar, but it was impossible to really.
If you watch that Netflix documentary, we pinpointed this location pretty well. You feel me? And we actually took out the entire squad, smooth as shit. It looked like a scene out of Call of Duty. Swear to God. You feel me? Like, it looked crazy, man.
Find him. And then on July the 6th, 2001, I was at CIA headquarters, and I was entertaining a delegation from a Middle Eastern intelligence service. We did this literally every single day. I had arranged a briefing on al-Qaeda with a young, like 23-year-old analyst. So I said, well, we're going to start off today with a briefing on al-Qaeda. The door opens and Ambassador Black walks in with the chief of operations for the Osama bin Laden group. And I was so shocked, I stood up and I said, gentlemen, this is Ambassador Koffer Black. He is the CIA's director of counterterrorism, and this is the director of operations for our Osama bin Laden group. And he sat down, and I'll never forget his words. He said, something terrible is going to happen. We don't.
Y'all always know, man. What's up with you niggas psychic? Look at this man, these psychic ass niggas. Something bad is about to happen. We don't warn anybody else in the world. Nobody in our own country. We don't take any action. We just let this happen, huh?
We don't know when, and we don't know where.
We don't know when, we don't know where. Okay.
But we know it's going to be an attack on a massive scale.
Man, these fuck, man, they just lying their ass off, dog. Come on, dog. Y'all collect all this intelligence for what? What is the point of collecting all this information and doing absolutely nothing with it? Your job is to collect this information, let know so we can actually stop before it happened, is it not? You didn't do that twice from these examples.
We're hearing code words for a huge attack. The honey salesman is coming with vast quantities of honey. There's going to be a great wedding. There's going to be a great football match. These are all code words for an attack. He said, we're hearing camp commanders on the phone with their students, and they're crying and saying, I'll see you in paradise. And he said, I'm begging you, if you have any sources inside al-Qaeda, please help us. They were just as shocked by this briefing as I was. They didn't say anything.
Okay.
He got up, he shook their hands, they walked out. At the end of the day, I sent these guys back to their hotel. It was going to be a few hours before dinner. So I went to Kofar's office to thank him for spending the time. I said, Kofar, I have to ask you, I'm not working on al-Qaeda. Did you say that just for their benefit, or were you serious? And he said, oh, I was deadly serious. Something terrible is going to happen. And then sure enough, 2 months later, there it was.
What? So, y'all got the that's doing the most information on that. Oh my god. I'm not getting this. Why didn't we do anything, bro? The one man to collect, or the one group that was collecting information or looking for information about Osama bin Laden, right? You're hearing code words, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's letting you know that there's going to be a big giant attack. You let this group that's specialized in collecting information from the al-Qaeda, right? Y'all they do with that. What did this group do? What's going on, man? I mean, is he okay? Hold on. Was he saying that the group were fairly new students? Look this up. Who is Larry A. Silverstein? Here are some facts. He had perfected attendance of his job, never a day sick, never a complaint. Look up which was the only day he was not in office. This was a gigantic cover-up. The Federal Reserve, the CIA, those two, along others, were born at the exact same moment, followed the cues. Hold on. Who's Larry? American businessman. Of course, he's the one that rebuilt the World Trade Center, and he wasn't there. That should already tell you enough, man. Is this still alive? You know what? Let me not speak on this before I get sniped. We gotta be careful with this. What the fuck am I reacting to? Hold on, gang. What did this turn into, man? Hold on.
From that moment after September 11th, you were very involved in tracking down senior members of al-Qaeda. How did that work?
Well, like everybody in the building, I volunteered to go to Afghanistan on September 12th. And I volunteered again and again and again, 4 times. And they kept putting me off. Well, I was one of only 16 fluent Arabic speakers at the CIA at the time.
So why didn't they send you?
I had worked years earlier for the deputy director of the Counterterrorism Center, so I considered him to be a friend. I went into his office and I made a bold and completely empty threat. And I said, if you don't send me to Afghanistan right now, I am going straight to Exxon with my Arabic and I'm not looking back. And he says, take it easy.
Exxon? Why were we going to the oil company? What's going on? What?
Take it easy. Can you go to Pakistan? And I said, yes. When? He said, tomorrow. I said, yes. What do you want me to do there? He said, I want you to be the chief of counterterrorism operations. I said, fine. And so I left the next.
Yo, why does the CIA seem so disorganized, bro? It legit seems disorganized, but organized at the not even organized, to be honest. The way that he's telling this, it's making us seem like we're always or we're ill-equipped. Literally, it just makes us seem like we're ill-equipped and not doing our job correctly. In fact, you failing. This was a failed job if you already knew and had information about them, and you knew that an attack was going to happen, but necessarily you didn't know when and where, right? Which is fair. But at the same time, you had 11 plus years to figure this fuck out, to stop him, to find his ass. Y'all talking about y'all couldn't find this in the fucking mountains? Are you serious? That probably on the phone with one of his family members, chilling. The whole fact, what's throwing me off is that I did not know that the Bin Laden family was chilling in America, bro. This tapped the one place where he was spending the most money. Like, that makes, or making the most money. You telling me this went to live in al-Qaeda, right? Not in al-Qaeda. Be the leader of al-Qaeda, right? And live in caves and blow up rather than being a billionaire. Hey, my bad. I won't make no more jokes. What you mean, bro? This scary, bro? Well, don't be scared, twin. Ain't nothing to be scared about. You feel me? I don't understand that though. Yeah, am I making sense here? He gave up a life of riches to live in caves and plant bombs. Said, yeah. This is actually nuts, man. This is
Next day. I arrived in Islamabad at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then the driver said, "Oh, I'll pick you up at 7 to take you in the office." And I said, "Oh my God, please."
You made an Alex Jones joke? Who the hell is Alex Jones, bro? I don't know who Alex Jones is. My bad.
I can't sleep on planes. I haven't slept since I left Washington. It's been 24 hours. Let me have another hour. Pick me up at 8. So he picked me up at 8. I was like a zombie. And I went in and introduced myself to the chief. And I said, I'm your new chief of counterterrorism. And he said, okay, have a seat. So he said, here's what I want you to do today. I want you to come up with a standard operating procedure to take down a terrorist safe house. And I said, okay. So I went back to my office and I sat with a legal pad and a pen. And I thought, okay, if I were going to take down a terrorist safe house, how would I do that? And then I thought, I would want it to be dark. I wouldn't want anybody to see me. So I wrote 0200 at the top of the paper. And then I thought, I need weapons, like lots of weapons. I bought guns, ammunition, night vision goggles, battering rams, bulletproof vests, knives, walkie-talkies. From scratch, we started this thing. And I thought, well, 9/11 is an open criminal investigation, so I have to invite the FBI. And this is Pakistan. It is their country, after all, so I have to invite the Pakistanis.
Right.
So I wrote, joint team, CIA, FBI, ISI, with the list of weapons. I ordered the weapons. They were there, in days. So a week later, we did our first test raid. We caught 2 al-Qaeda fighters. Another few days later, we caught an actual mid-level guy from Egyptian Islamic Jihad. It worked. And then finally, 6 weeks later, we get word from a sister agency.
Wait, what was the plan? You just told me attacking at night and that was it. You didn't tell me how y'all was going to scope the scene out, none of that shit. How you landed there, you feel me? The documentary said y'all took helicopters, right? And you had to fly over Afghanistan and you had to go into Afghanistan and get out quick before the government, decided to hit your ass and make it back to Pakistan. So it's like, and it's like you made the plans? What?
The Washington suburbs that Abu Zubaydah.
Are you telling me you were the reason that Osama bin Laden got his ass popped? Who the hell is this man?
Who we believed at the time was the number 3 in al-Qaeda, was somewhere in Pakistan, and we had to catch him. That was all we knew. He was somewhere in Pakistan. And I said, in our morning meeting, I said, this country is the size of Texas. It has 220 million people in. What do you mean he's in Pakistan? Go catch him. But we came up with a plan, and we caught him.
What was the plan? You got to tell us the plan. What was the plan? How did you catch this?
Shot 3 times and severely wounded. So I sat with Abu Zubaydah for 56 hours. after we shot him. The Pakistani doctors there saved his life, pumping blood into him as quickly as they could. It was just oozing out of him, pooling underneath the bed. He was so...
You not gonna tell us how y'all found this man? You missing out on important information here, big bro.
In blood. We were soaked in blood. It was like a scene out of a horror.
Why are you soaked in blood? Yeah, why are you soaked in blood?
Horror movie. But he lived. And then finally he asked me, what's going to happen to me? And I said,
The shooting. Why would he be involved in the shooting? He just sat from behind and made the plans. Well, I'm trying to figure out, why was he in the operating room, though? He's not a doctor. What does he gain from being in the operating room? I don't get that. What purpose does he serve being in the operating room? Honest to God, that's a genuine question. Are we missing something here? Is he, some elite exposure? Maybe he wanted to be the first to ask questions once the operation was done and he recovered. Being the first on the scene. So he was questioning him while trying to get, while they were trying to save his life. Is that what you guys are saying?
Honestly, I don't know. But I'm going to give you some advice. I said, I am the nicest guy that you're going to meet in this experience. My colleagues, they're not nice like I am. So if you do one thing, it's that you have to cooperate. And he said, you seem like a nice man, but you're the enemy, and I'll never cooperate. Finally, a CIA jet flew in, and 3 FBI agents and I picked up his gurney and carried him out to the plane. He was crying. He asked if I would hold his hand, which I did. We had to maneuver him. We had to stand him up on the gurney. He was strapped down to maneuver him onto the plane. We laid him on the luggage rack at the back of the plane and tied him down. And he squeezed my hand and I said, remember, you have to cooperate. And then he flew off. Well, a few weeks later, I flew back to headquarters. And I was in the cafeteria one day, just standing in the sandwich line. And a senior officer walked up to me and said, very casually, hey, I'm so glad I ran into you. Do you want to be certified in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques? And I had never heard that term before. This was May of 2002.
This is so crazy. He's in the CIA and still doesn't know about certain things, bro. This is what I'm saying. There's different entities in this world, bro, that we just don't know about.
I said, what?
Well, the objective was to capture him so they can get information about al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden's location. He just so happened to be in enemy territory in Pakistan, which makes no sense. You feel me? Why the fuck is he just residing there? But they never expressed to us, or he never explained to us how they caught this. You feel me? How the fuck did they catch this individual? And he said he made a plan for it and they just found him somehow, but I thought it would be, you're telling us everything else but that.
What's that mean? And he says, we're going to start getting rough with these guys. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he described these 10 techniques. And I said, that sounds like a torture program. And he said, it's not torture. The Justice Department approved it and the president signed it. We're going to start soon. You want to be in? And I said, let me think about it. I consulted a very senior officer, went back downstairs, and I said, this is a torture program. I have an ethical and moral problem with it. I think it's illegal, and I'm not interested. Well, of the 14 people that they approached, I was the only one who said no. And on August the 2nd, 2002, CIA began to torture Abu Zubaydah, and they tortured him mercilessly.
And what method of torture were they?
Well, they were supposed to start off with the least dangerous and least...
Okay, hold on. You just said that you weren't going to be part of this program, but how the hell did you know they were doing that? Like, how did you know they'd even tortured him, right? They could have just started this program and let you in the, in the dark about it. How do you know that they actually did this shit? File? He can know without doing it. There are files.
Defensive technique, which was called the attention.
So they filed their torturings? What type of does that? What the
grab, where you grab him by the shirt and give him a shake and say, answer my questions. And it gets gradually worse from there. But they didn't do that. They started with the worst technique, waterboarding. They strapped him down to a board. His feet were elevated compared to his head. They put some material cloth around his face and
put it over his face and went throwing that water
in his mouth, and then started pouring water on his face. They did this 87 times. And he actually drank.
After the 80s, what the that al-Qaeda information couldn't have been that important. You telling me you let waterboard you 87 times before giving up this location? You was a riding. I ain't even gonna cap. You was riding on Bin Laden's. That's nuts. I ain't even gonna lie to you, twin. That's dedication. What did Bin Laden do to you, or what did he offer you for you to stay that loyal to a nigga? Let a nigga waterboard me one time. Hey, you got it, nigga. As soon as I see you come up with the towel in the gallon of water, hey man, I'm talking, snitching out the man. Yeah, man, he's right here. He did this, he did that. He has microphones attached to everyone's living room, bro. He knows your exact move. Come on now.
Found at one point his heart stopped, and then they revived him just so that they could torture him more.
That's got to be so crazy, nigga, to die and bring your ass back just to torture you, and you still did this. That's so crazy.
Is Zubaydah the first?
Abu Zubaydah was the first. He was the test case, and in a very rapid succession, we caught some of the most important leaders of al-Qaeda. We caught Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks. He was waterboarded 100. Abu Zubaydah was 83 times up, and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was waterboarded 187 times. We used other techniques that
that's a lot of water being used.
And believed were worse than waterboarding. We used one called the cold cell, where we strip the prisoner naked and then chain him to an eye bolt in the ceiling so he can't sit or lay or get comfortable in any way. And we chill the cell to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And then every hour, a CIA officer throws a bucket of ice water on him. We murdered 2 prisoners with that technique. They died of hypothermia and then were just buried there on the grounds, unmarked. There was another technique called sleep deprivation, right? We all know what sleep deprivation is.
Let me guess, y'all played loud music?
What they did in this case was they strip you naked, chain you to that eye bolt in the ceiling again, and then have these industrial strength lights on you and loud acid rock, death metal music 24 hours a day.
That's actually crazy, dude.
We know from the American Psychological Association that people begin to lose their minds at day 7, and they begin to die at day 9. Your organs shut down. The CIA kept people awake as long as 12 days, and people did lose their minds. So it just got worse and worse and worse, and I kept waiting for somebody to say something.
These techniques were successful in gathering intelligence?
Well, see, that's the thing, is all of these techniques were unsuccessful in gathering intelligence.
What?
The intelligence that we gathered successfully was intelligence gathered by the FBI in the person of Ali Soufan, who was an FBI agent who used the tried and true FBI technique of establishing a rapport with the prisoner, a relationship. You offer him a cup of tea, a cigarette, an orange, a piece of paper to write a letter to his mother. You don't beat him and torture him and kill him. And so under Ali's guidance, Abu Zubaydah gave us actionable intelligence that saved American lives. And the CIA would start torturing him and he would go completely silent. So it was not just wrong ethically and legally, but it didn't work. If
The FBI and CIA did not communicate with each other. They hated each other.
anything, it just made the situation worse.
What was
That's the thing. The FBI was working on this case and the CIA, and they weren't working together. That's stupid.
Intelligence that saved American lives. And the CIA would start torturing him and he would go completely silent. So it was not just wrong ethically and legally, but it didn't work. If anything, it just made the situation worse.
What was the turning point that made you decide to go public about this torture program?
This program was so clearly wrong to me that I anticipated someone going public, and no one went public. Well, I resigned from the CIA, effective spring of 2005, and went into the private sector. In December of 2007,
Private sector. There's a private sector? What is this?
I got a call from a reporter from ABC News, which is one of the major news major networks in the United States, the American Broadcasting Corporation. And this journalist said that he had a source who said that I had tortured Abu Zubaydah. I said that was absolutely not true. I was the only person who was kind to Abu Zubaydah. And he said, well, you're welcome to come on the show and defend yourself. I didn't know that was a reporter's trick. I'd never spoken to a reporter before. I said, yeah, I'll think.
This is coming from the guy that knows how to recruit people, recruit spies, teach people how to be spies, knows how to collect information, legit knows the 10 principles of psychology. Appreciate the sub, BZM. You're telling me you got outdone, outwitted by a journalist. Bro, even I knew that was a yeah, someone lied about you doing something, but you could defend yourself on live television.
About it. Well, 2 days later, President Bush gives a press conference in which he looks in the camera and he says, "We do not torture," like that. And I said to my wife, he is a bald-faced liar. He's looking the American people in the eye and he's lying. And then 2 days later, he was walking to the helicopter.
I never did you not hear what I just said, bro? I legit said this doesn't make sense. Him being tricked by a journalist, I don't believe that. I don't even think, have you not been paying attention to what I've been saying this entire time? I've been saying that what he's been saying has been a little bit counterintuitive. I never once said I believe this shit. In fact, I've always said that. Oh, I just got here? Okay, that's understandable. All right. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. But no, this entire time, I've legit not agreed. Well, I got superstitious. This entire time I've been suspicious of what he's been saying. I don't believe everything, man. I don't. I simply don't. I just don't believe that this was something that Osama bin Laden just planned himself and, with this group al-Qaeda and America had no hands in this. Like I said, the bin Laden family is billionaires. They own an oil company. His niece is actually in the music industry. You know what I'm saying? Bin Laden was the only one in his family to decide to go fight in Afghanistan or fight against the Soviet Union and all that extra shit, right? And out of nowhere, he just became anti-American. Knowing well his family is all there and they're all billionaires. So why would you be anti-American if your entire family's rich because of America? Nigga, doesn't make sense. Someone stated that he also had a $600,000 penthouse in London. So he was in Western Europe. I'm not getting how, man?
To fly to Camp David. And reporters always shout questions at the president when he's walking in a helicopter. And usually he just goes like this, like he can't hear, and waves. They can always hear. So a reporter shouts a question about torture. And he turns and he says, well, if there is torture, it's because of a rogue CIA officer.
Did I just fall asleep? Holy shit. Let me sit the fuck up, bro.
And I said to my wife, Brian Ross's source is at the White House, and they're going to try to pin this on me. Because they were angry that I was the only one that declined. So I called the reporter, Brian Ross, and I said, I'll give you your interview. And I decided in the days leading up to it that I was simply going to tell the truth. No matter what he asked me, I was just going to tell the truth. And that's what I did.
And what truth was that?
The truth was the CIA was torturing its prisoners. Torture was official US government policy. It was not the result of a rogue. And the policy had been personally approved by the president.
Bro, this is kind of
So the
pointless.
FBI began investigating me at the CIA's behest. They investigated me for an entire year, from December of 2007 to December of 2008. And they determined that I had not committed a crime, that torture was illegal, and it is illegal to classify an illegality. And so they said, oh, you're free to go. So my wife and I actually went out that night to celebrate. 3 weeks later, Barack Obama became president, and he named John Brennan as the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism. John and I always hated each other. And I didn't know that John asked the Justice Department to secretly reopen the case against me. So for the next 3 years, my phones were tapped, my emails were intercepted, and teams of FBI agents followed me
Didn't he serve time?
everywhere I went. Finally, in January of 2012, I was arrested and charged with 5 felonies, including 3 counts of espionage. Espionage can be a death penalty offense. And so I had to fight. I was confident in my heart that I had done nothing wrong. The espionage charges were thrown out. I hadn't committed espionage.
But what did you commit? Why did you still serve?
But I had 5 children at home. And I had gone bankrupt because of the legal fees. I actually still owe my attorneys $1,150,000 that they'll never see. I'll never have that money to pay them. And so the Justice Department does what it does, and they offered me a deal. I was facing 45 years. They offered me 23 months, and I actually turned it down. And my lead attorney got right in my face, and he said, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you think this is about justice, and it's not about justice. It's about mitigating damage. Take the deal. Well, I had done some research, and I found a study by ProPublica that found that the government wins 98.2% of its cases. And he said, do you really want to roll the dice? So I took the deal.
And you served those 23 months?
I served every single day of those 23 months. Every day. Well, first of all, I should say, I have 0 regrets. Somebody had to say something. 0 regrets because I wanted to be able to sleep at night. I wanted my children to be proud of me. And I didn't want future generations to say, you know, that Kiriakou guy, he could have stopped this. And he didn't. You know, kind of.
No one would have said that, bro. In fact, I don't even think even knew you, bro. You literally didn't have to out yourself one bit or even out these for real. Keep it a bean. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not saying that what you did was wrong. I'm just saying, like, hey, you know.
Person is that? I wanted to be on the right side of this. I knew what was right and wrong. It was clear. It was obvious. There were a lot of bad guys in very senior, important roles at the CIA. I had to counter that. And you know, I said also that these CIA people, if they thought that prison was going to cow me, was going to silence me, they didn't know me at all. So in my view, I won.
And you think it's had an impact on the way the CIA operates now?
It has absolutely, definitely had an impact. In fact, when Gina Haspel became the CIA director during the first Trump administration, we used to call her Bloody Gina because she was the godmother of the torture program. In her confirmation hearings before the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, she said that the torture program was wrong and that she wished she had nothing to do with it. And I said, I call that a victory.
And any intelligence officer or anyone that kind of witnesses wrongdoing and they want to speak out, what advice would you give to someone?
You have to go with your conscience. The CIA likes for its officers to believe that everything in life is a shade of gray. And that's just simply not true. Some things in life are black and white, right and wrong. And deep down, we know what's right and what's wrong. So trust yourself, trust your judgment, even if you know there's going to be.
I mean, if I be real, I mean, this was kind of like mid, to be honest with you. Like, I know probably don't want to hear that, but it's like, you only told us information that already knew. You know what I'm saying? And I agree that this is from your perspective, but I'm kind of was expecting a little bit more secrets, details, and then the storylines or the things that you were saying were kind of iffy. You know what I'm saying? Very suspicious, man. It's like you were treading on thin ice. Like you were trying to tell us. Well, maybe that was the goal, right? You know, when you told us that bin Laden had actually spent summers in America and been all across Western Europe, and his family were actual members of the American society, and then that they got evacuated 7 days later by FBI operatives. It's like, how much more do we need to know that this operation was just, or this was a American government operation, gang? I'm pretty sure he can't say more because they would definitely catch an espionage charge and he'd be cooked. That's right. God gave us the ability to tell right from wrong. Nobody can lie about this. You can feel it in your gut. He maybe said more, but editor cut it out. Bro, this was straight through. This was a one take. This was legit one. They did a whole one take. It was a show. He definitely knew more than he let on. That is 100% factual. Yeah, I think Brody knew more than what he let on. Like, to be honest with y'all, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this was cool. You feel me? But I don't know. You know what I'm saying?